Welcome to everybody who signed on a little bit early. We'll begin in just a few minutes, so until then, please just hang tight. Welcome to everybody who signed on a little bit early to our webinar. Please just hang tight. We'll start in just a couple of minutes. Good day, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation, Take Your Electrical Estimating Workflows to the Cloud with Accubid Anywhere with Trimble. My name is Colleen Beatty, and I'm the Senior Editor here at Electrical Contractor Magazine. On behalf of Electrical Contractor Magazine, I want to thank all of you for attending today's presentation. Now, before we get started, I just want to go over some housekeeping items really quickly. So first, please note that today's presentation is being recorded, and we'll be providing you with a link to the recording after the webinar is over. So if you miss anything or if you have to leave early, you can come back anytime and watch the recording when it works for you. The audio for today's presentation should be coming through your computer speakers or headphones. If you have any technical difficulties, audio or otherwise, please reach out using the Q&A window on the right of your screen. And finally, we of course encourage your participation in today's webinar, so please send us your questions. You can submit them at any time during the presentation using the Q&A module on the right of your screen, and we'll have time at the end of the webinar for Q&A to answer them. Now, with all of that out of the way, I'd like to give a warm welcome to today's speaker, Robin Reinhard, Electrical Estimating Sales Manager for Trimble MEP's Eastern Region. With more than 36 years of experience in the electrical contracting industry, Robin has served as a helper, journeyman, electrical estimator, project manager, and vice president. Robin joined Trimble 24 years ago and resides in Eastern Tennessee. Welcome, Robin.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Colleen, and I thank AC Magazine with this invite and giving us the opportunity to communicate with our team here as well as your clients. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to go over the Accubid Anywhere platform with us. Today, I'm going to cover this agenda, where we'll be introducing the product platform. We'll be discussing the business problems of the on-premise software, as well as discussing why modern software companies are moving away from this type of software delivery. What is Trimble Accubid Anywhere, and how does it address these pain points in our business? I'll be doing a high flyover feature demo. Now, this is not a full product demo. And of course, you can achieve a full product demo by reaching out to Trimble and get connected with one of your sales reps. But this will at least give you a feel for the features and functions that elevate this platform over what is currently being offered in the market space. We'll follow up at the end, as Colleen said, with some questions and answers. So please, as you have those questions, feel free to reach out with that, and we will get to as many of those as we can. We will follow up with answers to the others as well and provide more information following this as well. So Colleen did a great job of introducing me, so I'm going to just kind of skip over that slide. There's not much more to tell you about it other than I've been around this platform for a lot of years, and I can honestly tell you that this product excites me very well. It kind of drives what I do today. With this COVID and this strange world that we live in currently, I have the fortune of having my wife work over my shoulder and working out of our home here. And one of the things she noticed, she goes, "You must be very excited about that product because I notice your voice goes up, you start talking very fast, you get very excited." So I'll try to keep that in mind today and slow down and make sure that you're understanding everything I'm trying to provide to you. Little introduction about Trimble for those that don't understand. Trimble acquired Accubid and about 11 years ago. Platform of Accubid has been out in the market space for over 30 years. And Trimble has brought quite a bit of development for us. We are working as a complete provider of solutions, tying this solution that we're going to talk about today into other solutions that Trimble is providing. One of the things that I think you're going to see in the near future is the ability for an installer to present on the project, put on a hard hat that will have a HoloLens built into it. They'll be able to see all the material that's needed for the particular task that they're achieving to, go to that particular work area, step into that room and have the software project a model in right in front of them. They'll literally be able to install as they're seeing the installation as if it's already been completed. It's going to help us obviously grow a large productivity, eliminate errors and issues, those type of things. So this is just one step towards that direction of the goal. Now, the challenges the electrical contractors are encountering in this year is beyond anything we've seen before. Obviously, the lot of remote working has gone into place, having connectivity to their offices and sharing information, needing to be able to access this anytime. Cash flow is obviously a concern in any year, but especially in unseen conditions and uncertain times that we're in. These are the elements that we're going to be speaking about today. trying to help you ascertain these issues as well as help you provide a solution to these issues. Now, the challenge of on-premise software. On-premise software keeps us limited to accessibility. It's not as mobile as we'd like to have in this day and age. It limits our ability to collaborate, which is one of the biggest elements of cost that we all know. If anything, I can ask any contractor, if you could put your thumb on one topic that you feel is the most costly topic to your business and your profitability, it's going to be lack of communication and collaboration. So it also puts a high demand on IT resources, the cost of the hardware, and it even provides an uncertainty of how well that information is going to be readily available to us when we're at a time of need. Now, that's where the opportunity of cloud-based software comes in play. First, I want to start by talking about what Microsoft Azure's definition of cloud computing is. You see this here on the screen. What I want to point your attention to is the last half of this, where faster innovation, flexible resources, economies of scale, and the result of lower operating costs, efficiency, and scalability. Nothing can be more scalable than an investment that can grow with you or even recede with you in times of need or times of famine. So this is the platform that we are providing with the Accubid Anywhere. The benefits of the cloud, as stated, is to reduce this cost. I'll cover more of this on the next slide, but increasing scalability, better collaboration, and remote access, usually available on a subscription, eliminating large upfront infrastructure investments. The software provider manages the disaster recovery plans, software backups, and hardware and software updates, all but eliminating your entire IT need. Now, through this, you're going to see here the differences in this simple listing of requirements. An on-premise platform requires these things of interface devices, software licensing, intranet. Now, those three are common between the two, but that's really where it stops. Initial software costs, server hardware costs, even the infrastructure and facility to store the servers anymore in this mobile type of environment that we're finding ourselves in are no longer needed. So how does this directly relate just to estimating? Accessing and collaborate on estimates for office and job site and home. Not just get the estimate out, but what happens after that estimate has committed us to a contract. How do we use that information to help elevate the other processes in our business? By accessing the same items and assemblies and project information simultaneously among our team members. One single source of truth, all teams working off of the same drawings. If the drawing shows the takeoff and that takeoff is coordinated to our budget, then I don't have a lie. It's all factual. Of course, data backup and software and pricing updates as well to keep us current, not only in our pricing of our estimates of risk, but as well as our change orders and buying sell value out of a change order. So your focus obviously is on your core business. You didn't get into this business. I don't think any of us that started off with our tools and grew into electrical contractors and owning our own businesses ever really planned on being IT professionals. So we either handle that ourselves, we hire it out, we bring other overhead in to manage that type of thing, and that's something that you can depend now on Accubid Anywhere platform to provide for you. So we're going to move on into the actual product. Now, this is pretty much stating what we've stated up to this point, but the amount of money that you can save by eliminating the IT costs is something that we've tried very hard to try to come with some kind of ROI generator that would help a client see a fixed value of what that is. But quite frankly, it's so conditional to individual clients and individual setups that clients might have had. But if you do take a hard look at that, you're going to often find that the reduction of the IT costs is going to more than pay for the investment in software. So it's almost like moving from this day forward, I don't have that type of software costs that I've been accumulating over the years up to this point to be successful. One subscription covers it all. So it literally includes not just an estimating solution, which is our estimating pro product, but our graphical Takeoff solution, which directly connects graphical drawings to the estimate, but also our change management solution. What happens after we get that estimate when we're moving forward with our contract? Labor, manufacturer, and vendor pricing is included, not just the vendor pricing that would be managed by using a discount off of a national average that's most commonly used today, but also using the supplier exchange, which allows me to directly connect my local suppliers that I purchase from and have direct pricing reflected into my costs and my bills. Submittal manager as well. Those of you that have already used this platform understand the benefits of how this brings that process of putting submittals together, especially electronic submittals, speeds that process up, helps us manage that throughout the our submittal acceptance process. That is also provided with this solution. And one point that isn't typically talked about in a lot of our ad flyers and on our website, but as a user, I can appreciate that Trimble is giving me a platform that allows me to put other information into. So I can put an unlimited amount of cloud-hosted file storage by project within the solution. And once again, a very nice savings as well as helping me get that collaboration that I'm looking for. Now, the minimum upfront costs with this platform, you're literally just paying for the service. You're paying to access this service. You're not having a deep investment of purchasing this platform like you would on-premise, having that deep investment. This allows me to amortize this investment over time, gives me a better cash flow, and of course scalability throughout the year. As I add users, I'm adding them to the solution. I'm not making another deep investment that, once again, might grow stagnant next year if I'm not having as many users needing to use the process. Trimble takes care of 100% of the infrastructure costs. So this is placed on Microsoft Azure Network. With that, we host a private site for your information. You are the owners of that data. We don't access that data information at all. We can access your users as far as how many people are using the platform, how often they use it. We can provide analytics like that back to yourself so you can make those investment adjustments as you go throughout the year. So these elements of having to have additional software licensing from Microsoft operating systems, those things are all handled. You simply need, on your side, that Windows-based hardware platform, an internet connection, and accessibility to the platform. Our team of skilled professionals monitor the health of the environment. We monitor performances 24/7. We monitor security and the data integrity. That's not just something that we do on the solution to provide that stability, but we also do this monitoring so that we can put your information in a safe environment and can make sure that you can always access that information no matter what natural disasters or elements of concern that might encroach upon the software. We do all our continuous updates. This platform does provide a much smoother method of pushing updates out to our clients. We're able to push these smaller updates more frequently throughout the year rather than building these up, testing them for on-premise environments, and then releasing one big update every year where your users have a lot more to learn and a lot more to get acclimated. We also can provide solutions to these steps, providing miniature videos and links, that type of information, so that users can pick up these new tools very, very quickly, and they're not weighted down by that learning curve, like I said, that you would have on on-premise software. A little bit about security. We do use the transport layer security system protocol. Now, I just said a lot of words that even I personally don't understand, but I am being told by our development team that's the highest level of security that's offered in the internet and that connectivity, so your information stays secure. All your data is anonymous and secure simply to you. And as I stated before, that data security and integrity follows the latest in these industry standards, and we make sure of that. In the event of disaster recovery, so Microsoft Azure picks up a lot of this load for us. They constantly monitor if there's issues of hurricanes, these type of things that are coming into the area. They automatically make a data transfer to other sites so that our clients that are affected by those type of things can simply get to an internet connection. They'll find their data in that data center. Even if that data center was completely destroyed, that their local connection is tied to, all the data is redundantly backed up, so there is no loss of that connectivity. How we handle it within ourselves, in our software, we do a full backup within the system weekly. There's a differential backup that's done every 12 hours. And as you're using it as a user, there's a transactional log backup every 5 to 10 minutes. In the event of an unexpected regional outage, services can be migrated, like I said, within the hour, even if it was something that we couldn't foresee. Last, once again, is the flexibility. I can't stress how well this works for clients, and I've already seen this in the practice of this investment being used by clients where they have had years where there's a lot of estimating going on. That work isn't nearly as prevalent as it is, so they're estimating an awful lot more than we did the previous year. Then they're successful, they get a lot of work, and now they're managing more work than they are estimating. This solution allows that scalability. Instead of selling you a platform solely dedicated to estimating and a separate platform solely dedicated to change management, that access now can provide both. Not only can that be provided simultaneously, but I can have multiple estimates as well as multiple projects, project management, pricing available to me and open, accessible to me as a logged-in user simultaneously. Now we get to the fun part. We're going to talk about some of the product, and we're going to go through the demonstration of the platform. Like I said, this is not even close to a full demonstration. A full demonstration takes about 2 hours of these products. But we're going to, like I said, talk about some high-level elements and some points of interest, the exciting advantages that we're bringing with this platform. True multi-user and a multiple location support is one of the key elements. Having no matter what user I have at any location, as long as there's an internet connection, I can now be talking live and using information live with other users. And it's not just within a single project, but it's throughout the platform. If I'm collaborating on an estimate with another user, we can simultaneously use drawings. We can simultaneously converse through that. We can even bring other individuals into those files and share information live, so that as we drive our management after the fact, we can have a field superintendent, project manager in the office, 2 different locations, and yet we are collaborating on the same project drawing live, making the decisions that will affect our productivity. This project-centric type of estimating is really the kind of the key. Instead of estimates being standalone estimating files that are never connected to one another, this is information that's literally being put into one database. So no longer is the database just simple material pricing and labor components, but it's all the project information in that database. It's the third-party information, our vendors, our clients, our subcontractors. That information is going to be in here, which is going to give me the ability to go back through this project information and mine it for different information that I might want to pull out from the solution. I could go back through a series of projects and say, show me here how successful this particular vendor has been with us on bid day, or to show me all the projects that I've particularly estimated and provide pricing. What's my hit ratio with this particular client that I've been working with over this last year? That type of information, because all of it consists in one database. Having both the estimated project manager interfaces simultaneously on a project helps us carry that communication and make those decisions moving forward. So I'm going to give you an example of this. Hang on one second here. Apologize. What you're seeing me here is opening up the platform. This is the first screen that you're going to see when you come into the platform. As I'm looking at this information, I'm seeing the different projects that I'm being able to access. These projects, as I select a single project, you're going to see not just the estimates that have been placed into this project, but you're also seeing the change orders that have been placed in this project. I can have multiple estimates within an estimate. I can have multiple pricing. Down below here, you're seeing that the change orders that I have submitted into this particular project. So as this information is, like I said, being centralized, I'm seeing this information live. Here's the change orders. How my base contract is changed to date as those change orders become approved. And we're going to come back at the end, towards the end, and we're going to look at a couple of Takeoff videos showing the change order breakdown and the method of organization of your communication of change orders. Now, as I move into this particular project, you're going to see the project information that I'm going to have about the project, obviously the common information, but I'm also going to be able to organize this information by type, once again giving me that filtering capability of maybe looking over my history and saying, show me all the school projects that I've done. Here you can see I can set start dates, completion dates. These are values of information that I can look at on how many days, how many weeks, how many months we're going to be on a project, and use that information. As well as I can add vendors that would participate in this particular project. And these vendors are going to grow as I use this solution over the years, and I'm going to have those vendors that I can once again come back and mine that information. But it's a very detailed amount of information we can put in here. I can do all that communication right through the system to these vendors, to these clients, to these subcontractors, to our generals, add to this list, obviously, so that you can see that progression of information as well as connect these members to these projects. Okay. The files and storage, as I say, kind of one of the understated values of this solution is that it's unlimited file storage. So if there's information that's particular about this project, I can upload that information and I can store that information in here. I can even use the Trimble Connect solution to help share this information to the outside world, giving my vendors outside, whether it's web links like this or just files that I've shared and stored within the project, I can then invite members to access those files and that information. Okay. We're going to talk next about the takeoff pads, the specification and designations. And it's one of the elements that allows me to speed the process up. In current estimating, we depend on our estimators to do a lot of this work by getting to know their database and finding these things. I call it the hunt and pecking of the database. We're going to use takeoff pads to help speed up that process. Have it focused to the particular elements that they're taking off so that they don't have to manage through literally tens of thousands of assemblies to accomplish a takeoff. We're going to talk about aspects of the spec and what the attributes and the spec in combination bring to the decision-making and help me get the material takeoff. And we're also going to do a couple custom designations like Fisher and Gear takeoffs here. All right. So if you look in this platform, I can use it like I could a traditional estimating system where the estimator is going to navigate through the database, through literally the 80,000 plus assemblies that you have here in front of you, and go down to a pre-built assembly that's been built specifically for a need. And they can use that assembly in their takeoff and apply it in a traditional sense. But I actually call that owning a Ferrari and driving it in first gear. One of the things that this platform brings to the place is to alleviate that need to do a takeoff in a traditional sense, where my biggest learning curve is figuring out where these objects are and to making sure that the estimator is using the correct assemblies. So if you look here, I'm going to create a designation. This designation is something that is specific to this project. I'm using a template right out of the system so that I can simply bring in this bill of material of an assembly. I'm going to give it a unique name. In this case, I'm going to call it the type, say, E fixture. Some of the information that I can do, I can alarm this. Right now, that's all I know is the label. I'm a junior estimator. I don't know what material elements I want my senior estimator to apply to this. I can alarm it so that it doesn't get forgotten about and left empty in my estimate. So I can still get my quantifications done, those type of things. I can also come back and put efficiency factors on there. I can put notes on this particular subject, providing information to others about this particular fixture, what I was thinking about, or even maybe what questions I need to bring up with my senior estimator to make sure that we've addressed this particular. I can have web links to this if I want to have a web link to the cut sheet. Down below here, since I used a template, it brought in an assembly template. Now this is a fluorescent fixture, and I'm going to pretend that this fixture on the job is an LED fixture. So I'm going to correct that by simply telling the software a different narrative. By telling it this different narrative, it's bringing that item into the estimate. It's alarmed it, letting me know that it doesn't have enough information. It still needs to know the size that I want. So here's my size options of that particular type. Now that that's been dealt with, the alarm disappears, and I know I'm ready to do that quantification, or that I'm going to get this right material in my quantification. Now, I'm going to delete the fluorescent lamps that I don't need because I'm going to buy this with integral lamps in it. But I also have some other elements like the support elements. Now, if these are things I'm providing, I can simply turn those on, and those are going to go into my itemized bill of material for me to pull pricing either from my database already or go solicit pricing from. But in this case, the whip, if I'm planning on buying this fixture pre-whipped, then that's not something I want added to my investment of this. It's going to be provided with that fixture quote when I receive it, so I'm not adding extra labor at this moment. I'm not adding extra cost. If I need to make a price change on a particular item, I can surely do that. If I want to carry a budget value in here, if I want to change the quantification of how much of the subject I'm getting, I can do all that right down here, as well as reach inside my database and grab other component elements that might be needed. If it's not a subject like that out of my database, I can add incidental values for whatever reasons. Here I'm adding spare parts. I'm adding quantity of 1. I want a value of 50 cents for that. I might put a note on here as to why I'm doing this. so I'm getting that added value to this assembly. These are things I can do at any time. I can also grab imaging and put imaging in here. Now, not something I would typically take the time to do during the estimating cycle, but once again, moving forward when we're successful, putting the information, putting a cut sheet right there so that my field people can see that information and particulars about it. Now, if I save this, it's going to be alarmed. It'll show up alarmed anywhere there's a final value, which will take me back to this alarm. When I get the answers that I needed to make sure that this is a confirmed value that I want, I can, of course, turn that alarm off and not having that concern anymore or that possible hole in my estimate. Now, with this video here, I'm going to do a little bit of Takeoff, but we're going to talk about the attributes and how the attributes are going to influence this. Instead of my estimator thinking about what hanger support system, whether I need a ground wire assembly, whether I need a junction box on there, I can turn those bullets on, as well as I can also control the hanger environment that I'm in, or even the attachment of the hanger. Is it going in concrete? Is it going in drywall? Is it going on a metal stud? I can tell the software that information and can hold that information, and it will build the material based on this information. So now I've eliminated the need for my estimator to do that for themselves. If I have a measurement that's a vertical only measurement, I can tell the software that, which will maybe deflect and put a different supporting method in there, even possibly different labor. And within this platform, we can also have different labor units of field labor from shop labor. So if you do prefab and you make components as a prefab before they go out, I can have the software identify that and break those labor units out. You notice down here as well, I have a structure elevation and an item elevation of an item. That, by telling the software that, I will also get the software to, as long as it's part of the assembly, to actually put the right support methods in there, get the right length of all thread, if you will, to mineral extract, provide the right drop when I need extra cable dropping down a wall or conduit dropping down the wall for a switch or something like that. It'll also hold that information. It's going to be one of the key elements I'll mention in the development of our modeling solutions, where we're going to be able to pull information from an estimate that was done in a two-dimensional drawing and have that provided right into a three-dimensional drawing and start producing that information for us so that we don't have to take that as another step in our business. Now here I'm going to go through a little bit of the spec and how the spec is used. Think of the spec as a helper. If I was in the field and I needed a particular material item, I would tell this helper, here, I need you to go down to the trailer and I want you to grab a particular item. Now you're going to find it on the right-hand side of the trailer on the second shelf. You're going to find a box marked Hubble, and I want you to reach in that box and bring back a particular material element. That is, in a sense, what I've told the software once, so that now the software knows exactly what to provide to me. So when I select this particular, what we call spec, it's in a sense a material filter that says, here, this is what I want you to pick from and use on this particular estimate. So each of these items that you see here on the right-hand side are things that match up to this particular material spec, no matter what decision the estimator answers. If they answer masonry decision on type or concrete, it's going to provide that type of support system or anchor. So those if-then statements are handled. I can then go down to a particular element, and I can make the adjustments of that element. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to take that particular spec, and we're going to adjust a few items on it. All right. So if you look at the wiring device here, I've selected a particular type. I can select a particular manufacturer. We're no longer limited to having a single manufacturer representing a product in our database. And I can also describe it to my helper by, in this case, ampacity, voltage, or even color of the device. Here I'm going to give the device the color change. I'm going to ask it to provide an orange device for my devices. And then I'm going to come down to my plates, and I'm going to change those plates to be white in color, pretending here that my engineer is a complete Tennessee Vol fan, and his signature on all his projects is to have white device or orange devices and white plates. Now I've done a little bit of setup. You're going to actually see me use this spec here in a little bit, and you're going to see the result of this spec. But I'm giving this a name. I'm saying Tennessee Vol fan spec. Now the software's learned a new spec. This is something I can apply in the future on any other project without having to take any more adjustments. Or if I've taken a particular job off in one spec, I'll be able to make this choice later, and the software will rebuild the takeoff for me. So let's do some switch takeoffs using those and the dynamic assemblies. Now, as I go through a switch, this takeoff pad speeds up the process because I'm not digging through a database. I'm literally going to one button where a series of questions are being presented to me, and I'm going to respond to those questions. I want a single pull device, 0 3-ways, 0 4-ways. I have 5 of these on the project, 30 of them. Let's put 30 in there. So as I did so, the software took that, pushed it through that spec over there, and it's selected the right components and even made the decisions on a single gang box, single gang plate, P-ring. Here I'm going to change the quantities. To have 3 devices in a gangable box, take off one of those, and you'll see here that the software's now provided 3 gang box, 3 gang plates. I did not have to try to find that assembly that was pre-built this way or accidentally grab the wrong assembly that provided the wrong information in the estimate. Now, in the case of that switch assembly that I responded, and I'll put another one in here, I've pushed that through this particular spec. It's flushed out those material items. Now I'm going to ask the software to push it through our new spec. Now I will make one note here. I did change some things in my database so that this spec will actually fail. It's going to come back and say, all right, see what you're asking for. But as soon as I went to your shop or your trailer, I could not find those subjects, and you'll see it tagged right there. But when I hover over that, it actually tells me that. It says here, you've asked for things that I cannot find. I did find these other things for you, though. I found these other color choices or other manufacturers in your database that can provide that. So now I need to either make that correction, either add that item back into my database that I took out to make this thing fail today. But if that's really not an item available, then I need to follow the software's advice, go to the other element, make the change that I need to make so that, once again, I get the right material into my estimate, and I'm not asking for something that is actually not available and assuming that I have it in my estimate. So once that's done, I'll ask the software to resolve that problem, and it has dealt with that problem and put the right material into my estimate. So even keeping us from making a mistake. In this take, we're going to do a little bit of a branch takeoff where I'm going to select a particular assembly. I'm once again going to a single button here, and I'm answering the questions. I want half with 3 number 12s, number 12 ground. The makeup percentage I want is 10%. I'm going to take off my footage and then get my number of segments. Software's pushed that through that spec and given me the response that I'm asking for. Now I'm going to pretend that at this stage I assumed that it was half-inch, and then I find a note that there was actually a 3/4 inch minimum on this project. I don't have to change anything except one of my answers. So I'll go to my conduit answer. I'll change that to 3/4 inch, and the software will rebuild that accordingly, swapping out all the elements that are required for that, even swapping out the junction box KOs so I have the right junction boxes being purchased for handling 3/4 inch conduit. The last one we're going to talk about is a feeder takeoff. Now I've introduced a couple specs here. I've introduced a copper spec and I've introduced an aluminum spec. Now I'm coming down here and I'm taking an assembly off feeder-wise where I tell the software the information it needs to know to maybe make the decision of what size copper and what size raceway I need by telling it the ampacity, telling it the length of this, and the software is going to then use lookup tables within the system and has now designed the feeder accordingly. It's given me 3/0 and 2-inch if I use copper. Now I'm going to copy this, duplicate it into my estimate, giving me now what-if scenario. What if I take the job off with copper? What if I take it off with aluminum? So now I'm going to ask software to push that particular copied measurement through a different spec, in this case my aluminum spec, and I'm going to see the results of that design instantaneously, and I can look at that bill of material and now see what size wire, what size raceway that's going to handle that same 400 amp service. I can then, of course, eliminate which one I don't want in my estimate, having now a proper estimate that's literally been designed with me, rather than me doing the work outside the system and then coming in here and finding the corresponding assembly to get that work done. Now in this one, we've taken it even to the extreme where the software can actually do all the voltage drop calculations as well. So you can see a lot more questions are going to be in this assembly, not just ampacity, but now I'm answering voltage, I'm answering phases, I'm answering, what type of neutral I'm having, what voltage drop percentage I want to use, what ambient temperature rate I want to use, whether it's spaced above the roof or not, copper ground, number of elbows that I have in the run, just like the last one, and of course take off my length and my count, and the software is moving that compound design. Okay. Now we're going to talk about live takeoff. In live count, I've done all this takeoff up to this point by just manually putting in a value. Now, in my audit trail, it tells me which estimator did that, what time they did that, and it also tells me it was a manual takeoff because I don't see any live count link. So in live count, is that being pushed? Wait a moment for that to show up. Colleen, are we seeing the graphical takeoff live count screen?
I'm seeing your slide about graphical takeoff, yes.
Okay, all right. Apologize, it's not showing up in my audience view. Sorry about that, folks. So the graphical takeoff, we're going to get rid of the means of using paper and a method outside the system. A lot of us have been exposed to some form of this in the world today, even in just reviewing drawings. But we can treat these like paper. We can do manual takeoffs. We can mark up the drawings and plans. But you're going to see that this is going to directly connect the takeoff that I'm doing into my estimate. And for lack of time, I'm going to actually just kind of jump right to that and talk a little bit more about those points as we do the takeoff here. So in this view, you're seeing me going to take off some conduit. I'm opening up that same assembly as before. I'm answering the number of wires I want. If you notice, it already retained the answers that I had a moment ago, so I've only had to actually answer one question. Now I'm going to click where I want to put junction boxes in this run. I'm bending the conduit, in this case right here, by holding down the Shift key on my keyboard, running that across, releasing that Shift key, putting a box on the corner, holding down the Shift key here to get to my panel, and now I'm hitting the space bar, telling the software I want an additional measurement of 5 foot added at the end of this run that gets me from the ceiling down to the top of the panel. I can do as many of these measurement assemblies connected or disconnected from one another by simply grouping these measurements and getting those into my report here. So this drawing is now something that I can use to push my team members out in the field of what I had in my mind for the takeoff. They can follow this, or they're going to be able to question that, and we're going to be able to make adjustments here in a moment. So that fed live to my estimate. Didn't have to do anything other than just what I did on that drawing to get that portion takeoff done. So here's my actual measurements. Here's the values that are carried in. I'm going to set them in case there's other changes I might want to do, add or adjust those material elements, and the software's now built out that material list. And this line item, unlike the others, is directly connected to the drawing. If I come back to the drawing and I make an alteration to any of this information, I change my mind or I change the pathway, as soon as I release that, the software's now changed that value in my estimate. If I move it to another direction, it's changed that value in my estimate. In other words, I can see a live impact of all these decisions that I'm now making in correspondence to this design in a value that I can make that economic decision, not just a convenience decision in our day-to-day. Now here we're going to do some fixture counts. So I'm going to go back to that fixture designation that we created, and that automatically created a unique takeoff pad for this job with my fixtures. There's our type E that we just created a moment ago. So I'm going to go to my type E fixture. I'm going to select that. It's going to take me over to the drawing and allow me to quantify those. Type E. Now, like I said, I can go around and I can manually select these objects by simply finding the object and clicking on it. No different than I would in a paper environment. When I'm done with that, I'll tell the software I'm finished, and now you'll see a quantity of 8 that I'd already taken off, and then these new 4 that we've taken off. Another method of using this solution is to have the software do an auto count. So instead of me running around doing all that clicking, hunting, and finding those subject matters, I can literally grab a sample off the drawing, tell the software I want to look for different rotations. I can tune it to the drawing, so I have dirtier drawings or more congested drawings, that I can tune it to that particular drawing. And over here in the background, you can see that the software's already started taking off, and it's going to locate all those 2x4 fixtures. So as I found those 2x4 fixtures, it's telling me exactly how many are left to get quantified in the project. So if I select that, you'll see that there was 155 potential matches, but it noticed that I'd already counted 12, so there's only 3 remaining. If I want to confirm that, I'll ask the software to present those out on the drawing, so I can zoom out and confirm that not only did it find the remaining 2x4s, but it was also smart enough to locate but not put them in the add quantity of green to my estimate. If I zoom in, you'll notice that there's a mixed bag of A's and B fixtures here. So I need to teach the software the difference between the two. Because in the first pass, it's looking for that object shape. In the second, what I'm going to do, and this is a patented process with our solution, where I can come in here and I can say, now that you found all the 2x4s, I'd like you to do a secondary pass over those and isolate the A's. I'll do the same thing with the next fixture type, being the B. Confirming that there's no other types, I can close that down, and you'll notice over on the left-hand side, the software's now taking that gross quantity, and it's now breaking and isolating the A's from the B fixtures. Now that I've taught it that, it now knows everything it needs to know to go and quantify these 2x4 fixtures and to isolate A's and B fixtures from one another. So if you notice there on the bar at the bottom, I can then select that, and I can say, please, repeat this process on all these remaining drawings. And quite frankly, I can turn my back, or I can go taking off another subject matter, and I know that the software is going to quantify and separate those for me and have those quantities ready for when I get to that drawing. I can report into my estimate and have that work done. It's quite a time saver. But it's not just a benefit of a time saver. There's an awful lot of times where I'm going to use this to search drawings and look for things. I can download all the drawings on a project. So if I have the mechanical drawings, architectural drawings, I'm looking for a subject matter that's on my electrical drawing, but I don't know where this motor is that I have to run a circuit to make sure I've got power to this motor. All I've got is a motor schedule on my electrical drawings. I can do the same type of search by giving the software the name and telling it to go out and search for that, not just on this drawing, but maybe on drawings I'm not commonly using. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about live count and what I call field show and tell. Imagine I've done my estimate. This is the estimate that now my field personnel can be looking at this drawing. And they can be printing this off, saving it as a PDF, that type of thing. But they've come across a problem. They've taken a photograph of that problem. They can't access me as the project manager just yet, but they can upload that file right into this folder. They can then drop a link on the drawing where that file was taken or that picture was taken. Now when I have time to come to the drawing, I can come here, I can see that icon, we can get on a phone conversation, I can literally look at what the user's trying to explain to me, this problem. This provides not only, like I said, better communication, but imagine how strong your as-built would get by providing this information as well. Showing information that's up above that ceiling or where that information is. So when I do this, I can filter that out. I don't have to print this drawing with those notes or those images on them. I can organize all this. I can even have filters that separate users. So if I have multiple users looking at the same drawing at the same time doing takeoff, I can turn the filter onto just what I'm doing, and so that I am just seeing, and I'm not getting kind of caught like a cat in front of a fishbowl watching and getting mesmerized by what my partner's doing on their job. I can focus on what I'm doing, and yet I can turn that filter off and make sure that we haven't missed anything or we haven't double counted anything. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the extension, where the material comes to a head and where we're going to solicit that information with our purchasing power through trade service. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the change management, and we're going to try to do this a little bit quick here. We are running tight on time. In change management, you're going to see that in the project, I can go down and I can focus just in the change pricing of that project. We've already talked about the estimating, the bar in between. You'll see here that we've broken the access to change management into 3 tabs. Our RFP, request for pricing tab, our proposed change order, our original contract comes in here. These are proposed change orders. Maybe a field person's going to put this note in here stating I need a price on certain subject matter. That's their first access point. They maybe don't have access to do pricing. Maybe you don't even want them to access the individual pricing in case they're opening the solution up in front of clients out in the field, but they can surely tell me that they need this request for price. Then I can take that and I can turn that into a proposed change order. Managing the proposed change order and the stage of the proposed change orders is important as well. How many are pending? How many rejected, which were approved? As they become approved, how do they change my contract to date? Giving me statistics down here at the bottom that allow me to see that information as a whole, or as well broke out and look at the different elements of cost, or how our subcontracts have changed due to this change order. Our quotes have changed. As well. A lot of information for management. You'll also notice that one of those is alarmed. So once again, I might alarm it to my attention because it's a pending change order that hasn't been approved. And now I need to get that approval, or so the next job site meeting I'm going into, I can then maybe print the screen of just the unapproved change orders, walk in there, bring the subject up, try to get that process moving forward. Then the last tab is our change order tab. So any change order that becomes officially approved will show up on this. So once again, maybe my field personnel can then access that change order and see the approval process. They can move forward with doing that secure work. Once again, this is a very GUI system, so you can control what and what is not being presented to your team members. And that is controlled by their login. So individual logins can access certain tools. Individual logins can access only certain projects. You have a lot of control in making sure you manage the security of that. We're talking about reports here. You're seeing me go through and actually generating a few reports. I'm grabbing some examples that are in the system, but you can customize, obviously, these reports. Anything you visually see in the platform can either be a part of or not part of a document. And the change order solution provides two different documents, a client sell document that puts sell values in front of the client, and a cost document that we keep internal and applied to our accounting and putting our budget adjustments into our projects. So here's an example. Once again, you have a lot of control over this. You can put watermarks in this. It is kind of what we used to use in the old days, crystal reports type of functionality where you can get very creative. You can even ask the software within this unique report to do custom math. So if there's a couple of values that you'd like to tally up and have totaled in another part of the report, the software can actually do that advancement as well. The last one that we're going to talk about here is carrying this information into other solutions. So I've already mentioned about job cost budgeting in your accounting, so I can share information out of the solution into accounting. The example I'm going to give you here, because I don't carry a bunch of accounting systems around with me, is I'm going to ask the software to, oops, push the wrong one out there. So I'm taking the information in the extension. I'm going to ask the software to group this information down, so not just a material list here that I'm looking at, but I'll be able to group it out. I can actually tell the software there's pre-groupings already built in the database, and when I want to go solicit pricing through Tracer, I can simply do that. Here I've now asked software with the vendors that I'm participating with. The software's automatically grouped this material into buy lots. I've also gone through and selected which vendor I wanted to price certain material groups. Not everybody will bid or price everything, so I've created that. And now that I have a unique custom material list that's going out to each of these vendors, I literally come down and press one button, and any participating vendor is going to have their system pinged. That pricing is going to come directly back from that system and be presented to me, not only individually, by looking at that, but also in a results pad. So now I can see how that information come back. The software will cherry pick the best price. I can obviously just tell the software to go ahead and comply to that, or I can go through an individual price and say, listen, I want to reject this price, or I want to accept a different price from a different vendor. I'm in complete control of what gets presented, but when that presents that into my estimate, it's not just updating the price that I'm carrying in my bid. It's also going to carry forward with it the other data. So the manufacturer that person's selling me the material catalog number of what that item is, which vendor that price came from. So if I scroll over here to the right, I will not only see that data, but I can also then filter this out. And I can say, show me the bill of material of what I'm buying from Graybar, or what I'm buying from Westville, or what I'm buying from HD. By just simply going to that header and telling the software that I'd like to filter that out, giving me that short list material. But because now I have all that information, I now have also the means to push into my submittal management solution and be able to then submit on the controlled elements that I have carried in my bid because I made an economic decision to do so. So that's where Tracer comes into play with this solution. Like I said, it's not just a national average price anymore that it's carrying into my bid, but it's giving me that ability to use Supplier Exchange and directly connect my local area vendors. Now I'm going to push off here. The last tool is the submittal manager tool. It's using the Tracer item database of over 1 million items where we have catalog pages, technical specifications, all that uploaded in the solution. So then I can grab that bill of material, as I stated, and put it into my submittal manager, which will help me assist me in getting my submittals put together. I can have editing tools in there where I can circles, highlight, put notes on, that type of thing on any cut sheet. I can then make that electronic submittal direct to my client. My client takes that, makes me other edits to that, accepts and or rejects those submittals. As that comes back, I will have a log of that information, knowing what I need to do next, what I need to handle as far as rejected submittals, get those resubmitted. If I make another choice, what am I going to do? I'm going to go back to that estimating solution. I'm going to bring up the next price that I wanted to carry in my estimate, making as little impact in my job cost as possible, or even knowing maybe how I'm going to push my vendor into that price of the price I've carried. But all that is synonymous back and forth between the solutions. Now, we're right at the top of our hour. These are the resource, and there's a resource link here for you to get in connection with a lot more data than what I've provided to you today. You can also get in contact with your local sales reps so you can set up a proper demonstration of this platform. Hopefully I've given you the information that will excite you in looking at this further and seeing how this applies to your own business. The MEP portfolio of products, services, and content provide this for you. Once again, you can come back and visit this video and get a little bit more of this information. But I'd like to get to the Q&A session and see if we have a couple questions we can quickly answer. Colleen?
Thanks so much, Robin. That was fantastic. And I do recognize that we're a little bit over 3 o'clock, but if people would like to stick around for a few more minutes, we'll do a few questions. And then anything that we can't get to, Trimble will be happy to follow up with you guys. So the first question, we had a couple of questions about the database and how data is managed. So can the data reside on like a private server for the company, or does it have to be in the cloud?
No, it's in the cloud. For obvious security reasons, we need to keep it in that location. You don't want somebody to be able to pull that data out of there. Especially, we have a lot of clients that really push us into this because they've in the past had employees that would grab that data, then go off and hang their own shingle or go to another competitor. And so, no, this information stays secure on our servers.
All right. And how do you manage the database?
There's a database manager in the solution. So typically a client's going to assign or have what comes out of the group a product champion. But you can have anybody that can have access to that solution, but I would, like I said, use your security protocols to limit that access. But you can do that through the project, the manager solution. That gives me a live capability, so I can actually be in there as system manager, making changes to my database, making material price changes, adding unique manufacturers that might be, without having my users out of the system while I'm doing that. It's all a live solution, so I can completely interact with that and not impeding my other users in the solution.
Thanks. And just to remind everyone, there is a short survey for you in the bottom right of your screen. We'd appreciate it if you would spend a couple of minutes filling that out during the Q&A, and we'll give you a couple of minutes after before we close up. So Robin, what are the requirements to get up and running with the software?
Well, really, there's not much requirements. Now, I'm going to say there's suggestions more than there's requirements. The requirements we've kind of gone through. We need an internet connection. We need a Windows-based machine because there is a thin client that gets pushed to that. It's not just using an HTTP interface. It is using a thin client protocol. That's where we get the TSA encryption that's needed to keep the information secure. But as far as that hardware goes, the standard Windows 10 configuration, minimum requirement of that is all that's needed here. There are some suggested requirements on video cards and monitors that we would provide to you as well, where we try to encourage a high pixel count for that monitor that you'd be using your drawings on to get the best resolution out of that. But those are more suggestions than they are requirements.
All right. And let's just do one more question here. So what you've shown us here today, is this the entire Trimble suite or is it modular? So does this mean, like, does it include Accubid, change order, live count, things like that? Or does the end user require a license for each of those modules?
No, and I apologize if I didn't make that clear for the person asking that question up front, but this is, you're paying access to this entire suite. So it's still concurrent license model, meaning in an investment I have 2 access. So I've paid for 2 people to be able to access a solution at any one time. But that does not limit them unless you set your own security limits on that user. So I can have 25 logins to the solution. If I'm paying for 2-person access, then 2 people at a time can access this complete suite. So like I said, I could have an estimate open by one user. The other one could be opening up another estimate or a change order, or those 2 users could be opening up multiple estimates, multiple change order, so they can have complete access as long as you allow them with that login. When that user logs off, now you have an access that's free for another user to use. They would use their login to access. To get more access, nothing money can't fix.
All right. Well, I thank you for that clarification. And I apologize to those that we haven't been able to get to your questions. There were so many great questions that got submitted. And like I said, we have your questions and your contact information. So Trimble will be following up with you. And you can also, if you have a question and didn't get a chance to submit it today, you can also follow up with Trimble as well. Robin's contact information should be on the top right of your screen. So I think that will wrap it up. So on behalf of Electrical Contractor Magazine and Trimble, I want to thank everyone once again for attending this webinar. And thank you, Robin, for this fantastic presentation. I feel like I understand the software so much better. So please don't forget to fill out the survey. It can be found on the bottom right of your screen. I'll just give everybody a couple of minutes. I'll leave the webinar open for a couple of minutes so you can answer that. And also, please be on the lookout in your email for the recording of this event. It should be available soon. So have a great rest of your day, everybody, and we hope to see you at a future webinar.